I grew up in Western New York and Toronto. My two hometowns are Buffalo and Toronto. My father was an academic. We traveled a fair amount when I was a kid. Saw a lot of theater as a kid. One of my first New York experiences, my mom was hugely pregnant with my younger sister, and my dad and I went to New York, and we saw in a weekend Hal Prince's production of Sweeney Todd, and Liz Swaitos's production of Runaways, and then finally an appropriate piece for a 9-year-old, The Wiz. So, to see those three pieces back to back to back really opened my eyes. And my dad did the wonderfully diligent thing of bought every original cast album, and so it was like a big trip. Very fond memory of that, and that was sort of the beginning of theater is fascinating. I also, as a little kid, had a bit of a stutter, and I had puppets, and my puppets didn't stutter, and so I wrote stories and used these puppets, and so the idea of storytelling was very important to me. And language was really interesting to me. I was a big reader as well. And then I acted as a kid in suburban Buffalo, plays and musicals. And then when I went to college, University of Toronto, I decided I had to get serious. And in my 17, 18-year-old head, that meant, well, I can't study theater. I'm not Mozart. I sort of assumed that an artist had to be like a savant. And I felt, theater was very important to me, storytelling was very important to me, but theater felt extracurricular. So I started to study economics, political science, and had some great professors and went down that road. And my dad was in the social sciences. It sort of felt a little bit like joining the family business. I started to pursue a PhD in political science right after college. And that was very interesting. And then at a certain point, it wasn't interesting enough. I realized, I'm a good student, but I'm not motivated enough to tell these stories. And there was something obvious in the social sciences. You had to start to investigate answerable stories. You had to start to investigate cause and effect. And the stories I was interested in, even at the political and sociological level, were bigger. They were unanswerable stories. And that led me back to theater. And so out in San Diego, this is maybe now age 23. So it was sort of from the age of 19 to 23, I got serious about the social sciences. And then around 22, 23, realized, being serious isn't about the content of what you're serious about. It's about your relationship to it. And so I went back to theater, and I came clean to my PhD advisor and said, I'm not going to pursue the PhD. And I said, I'm really interested in theater. And it so happened that this person actually got his PhD at Yale, and he said, theater is fantastic. I mean, this is great. And of course, no, go. And I had this great opportunity. They needed teaching assistants. And so I stayed on the extra year, and I TA'd Intro to Ethics and Comparative Politics and American Politics while I signed out cabaret spaces and it's and worked a lot with undergrad as well as graduate UCSD actors and designers and started to direct. And also it's San Diego, so in parking lots and in parks, because you can do it sort of year-round out there. And I, at that point, didn't feel ready to move to New York. I felt intimidated by that. So returned to one of my hometowns of Toronto and assisted a little bit more, assisted Des McAnuff on a production of a musical, The Who's Tommy. And I also did some stage management. That was also really fascinating at larger scale shows in Toronto. This was sort of the days of Garth Drabinsky and sort of pre-Broadway tryouts of Showboat. I was an ASM on that. So very interesting stuff. And then I wound up putting up with another of Des's assistants, putting up Tommy in Germany. So based on, obviously, Des McAnuff's production. But so that at age 27, I felt, well, now I'm ready to move to New York. I now have some New York connections, and I'll direct Broadway musicals, and you take it from there. And so I moved to New York City and did a lot of work downtown. In the meantime, the people that I had gotten to know on the UCSD campus had completed their MFAs, and they'd also tumbled to New York. So there was this sort of instant community that really came out of going and being part of that campus scene 2 years prior. We all sort of arrived in New York at the same time. And that's where I first started to direct new plays, which became very important to me and continue to be very important to me. And so working with writers in the room, I now actually am the president of the board of that company that we started together called Clubbed Thumb, and very influential and important in the ecology of the new play making scene in New York City. And 21 years later, I'm now directing my first musical. So you go where your path takes you. But yeah, so that's how I started out telling stories and wanting to be in theater.